Thank you, Representative Smith and Chairman Brady for hosting this roundtable discussion. Mr. Hassett, we appreciate your insights and thank you for your service to our country. And tell my friend Kevin Warsh and Secretary Rice that their old Bush buddy Jodey Arrington said hello.
Will do.
I'm with you that you've been very, as most economic policy experts are pretty measured about in their commentary on different economic plans across the political spectrum. But you've been pretty straightforward and almost visceral in response to what seems to be illogical to do to an economy and to working people after policies, and Americans have connected the dots, by the way, from the policies of this administration that have locked out labor because of generous unemployment benefits, further driving down labor participation with the proposed removal of work requirements, reducing real wages, and imposing what is the most regressive tax on the American people with this surge of inflation now at a 30-year high. What's illogical is that they continue to layer one disastrous policy on top of the other, and they're dismissing the voice of the American people screaming for them to relent and stop with the big government policies of mandates and tax that are making a bad situation worse. But this is complicated stuff. I mean, even for those of us on Ways and Means that are trying to follow all these tax policy machinations so they can thread the needle politically, get to the right number. And you mentioned the complexity. Translate for me and for the people I represent in West Texas, because you're smarter and better at distilling this and crystallizing it in the most simple terms. But translate this highest combined tax rate in the developed world on small businesses and the book income, which is a tax on investment and risk with the cut in deductions on capital expenditures and operating losses. Translate that, Mr. Hassett, to what that's going to do to the working people of this country. If you could, just in the simplest terms, what do all these machinations translate to in their day-to-day lives in terms of opportunities lost, opportunity cost, other opportunity costs like wage reduction, et cetera? And the floor is yours. God bless, and thank you again for all your help.
God bless you, Mr. Arrington. I'm going to give one sort of pre-statement about a complicated thing that probably there aren't any constituents anywhere that really want to talk about guilty. But there is a headline thought that I think that I could see you sharing at a town hall meeting, which is that the Biden administration made this big deal about reaching this global minimum tax agreement with all these countries around the world, right? So that we've noticed that before the Trump tax cuts, all our companies were moving overseas. And so the Biden administration wants to lift taxes again. And so what they've done is they've gone around to countries all around the world and said, well, why don't you lift your tax? Why don't you lift your tax? Because then our companies won't move. Well, they've all promised to do it, but none of them have done it, right? And the reason that they've not done it is that in the EU it's going to take forever. But once everybody else lifts their tax rates, that if you're a country that doesn't do it, then all the companies are going to move to your country, right? And so what the Biden administration wants to do is they want to trust your future, American worker, to the promises of our trading partners who promise they're going to lift their tax rates in the future sometime. But not only that, if you look at the agreement, the OECD guidelines that everybody agreed to, the current proposal in the House is way harsher. And this is a thing where if you'd like, I could go through the details or we could email about it. But the guilty rate is higher than the OECD framework. So they're actually pushing things to a higher level than even they just agreed to in their international agreement, more punitive. And so it really is a befuddling punishment of American activity. But what it means for the workers in West Texas is that their jobs are going overseas. Firms are going to start inverting again because we've got the harshest tax climate on earth, and so people are going to leave. And there's nothing they can do to stop it, given all of our treaties. I mean, like inversions, you can try to stop it, but it's just they can't do it, without like exiting the World Trade Organization.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Mr. Hassett, and
Thank you.
Ranking Member Smith. Thank you, and I yield back.